Who's got wins? We got any wins? Serena White, it's good to see your purple S square there instead of your pretty face. We'll take what we can get. I'm glad you're on the call. We got any wins? No? Are we the only winners, Jeff?
Well,
Jeff, do you have any wins?
I have wins. I went to a leadership academy all weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 12 hours a day. It was unbelievable. As you know, Patric did this, I think, 10 years ago or something, a very similar program. And it was very revealing of all of the triggers and rackets that I'm running in my head and limiting beliefs and all of that. And we're only scratching the surface. There's still a few more weekends left. So I get this coming weekend off, and then next weekend I'll go to level 2. But I'm just super blessed to be able to participate in something like that and to be able to learn and grow and continue building my emotional intelligence and bringing all that back to you guys.
Awesome. Yeah. Jeff, it's a personal development program, and I went through, like you said, something like this 10 years ago. For me, it was absolutely life-changing. You know, at that point, I'd been playing poker for a living, and, you know, I was kind of looking for a way out. And, you know, we all struggle at some point. I was struggling with some confidence issues. I knew that I was going to take a pretty big pay cut no matter what I did, because I was making really good money playing poker. And, you know, over the next few months after I completed that, I basically taught myself to be a software engineer. And then shortly after that, got my first software job. And you guys can kind of see the cascade of events. So you guys, I encourage you guys to search for these ways to improve yourself. You know, what I've learned from coaching and the last few years, coaching with Rank Masters since February, is where people struggle the most is not the tactical SEO stuff. That's not what it is. It is 100% the mental part of it. We all get kind of punched in the mouth, maybe not figuratively, maybe just literally along the way when we're growing up, and we carry some of that with us, and we don't believe in ourselves. And then maybe we don't put our full efforts into things. We don't go all out because we don't want to fail. And, you know, while I had a great childhood and I didn't have all this trauma, like I had my own stuff, and going through a course like that really exposed some of that to me, helped me work through it. And, you know, I've continued to do that. So I would encourage you guys to search that out in your own world. Jeff, congrats on going through that, man. I know it's not easy. I know with a group that we started with 75 people. I think we finished with 25. So 2/3 of the people jumped out just because it was like, it's in your face. It's 4 months long. It's intense. A lot of big requirements.
But we lost one. We have 30 in our cohort, and we lost one so far. But
yeah, you'll see that you're going to see a lot of people are probably going to drop off, and that's too bad, because the ones that stick with it, I think will get a lot out of it. You know, they're going to put a lot of pressure on you. All right, let's circle back. What other wins do we have? Jannery Canary, you got any wins? Ben Miller, it's good to see you on the call, man. I don't know if I've seen you on here before. I know we chatted a little bit. It's good to see you on there. Jannery, you got a win?
I do, I guess. I've been going down my warm list of tons of different contractors that I have, and just finished a conversation with a spray foam contractor. And he was like, I'm so happy that you called me. I need some assistance. My Google this and all that stuff. So we have scheduled a meeting for probably next week. We haven't solidified it yet because he's pretty busy, but that's my win, I guess, is just having a fun conversation of somebody really, really interested. So, and I'm just going down the list. So
that's great. Yeah. I'll tell you, I've got a win here. You know, Mr. Jeff here, as a lot of you guys know, has been kind of like the sales and client management in my agency. He's also handled a lot of these services in for LeadSnap, right? And he also is a partner in Rank Masters. So he's pulled pretty thin, and you know that's resulted in him not being able to give his full attention to any of those things, which is what those roles need. So, you know, we started out our EOS shortly after the event. I mentioned at the event, we were starting it right away after that. And, that was pretty revealing. That revealed some weaknesses in our agency. There's a part where you go through and you're putting yourself in these different roles. You build out your accountability chart. And I was in like 6 of these spots, even though a lot of my agency was kind of running automated, but it was hurting in some of these spots. So we decided we're going to move Jeff out of the agency completely into LeadSnap. And for the short term, I'm going to replace him as an account manager and handle sales, while I build up those systems and really get a lot of those KPIs in place, where Jeff was more like having success, but he was more of a gunslinger. I'm going to build this in a way that I can drop other people in there and build out a whole sales team. From that process, I promoted Samantha to be kind of second in charge of our agency. So she got a big promotion, and, she has been doing a great job taking over this stuff. Dan Martell saying 80% done by somebody else is 100% fantastic. What I realize is that, I didn't have the capacity to handle that role along with these other roles, and we were hurting a little bit from it. So I've moved her into that role. So we've had some big changes, and I just did kind of my first account management call in years, really, with a client that was ready to jump ship, and I saved him. I told him like, hey, we're changing our offer. For those of you guys who haven't heard, I know that right now the group is still called LeadSnap Rank and Rent Mastermind. We are kind of moving away from rank and rent. We're blending our models. A lot of you guys have shared this a few times. We're blending the model of the assets that we own. There's going to be an add-on service to client services. When we started this model, everything was different. And I think it's like closed-minded to not acknowledge the changes that have happened in Google, especially the changes over the last 12 to 14 months. If you think about, when I started 7-8 years ago in this business, like how many reviews did people have? What percentage of people actually had a website? Like you look at competing against Google My Businesses when there's 7 reviews. Now you'll find ones that have 400 reviews. So we used to be able to get postcards. You would just go on Google and click a button, and then 3 days later, like almost 100% of the time, a postcard would show up. Certainly not the case anymore. Like I don't know that Google even has those postcards anymore. I never hear about that anymore. Now there's all these other ways that we have to do. So the scales have changed, and with that, we changed the business model, right? So what we're doing is a lot more client services, and we're blending in that lead generation model in there. We have all these existing assets. And I think through this, we get the best of both worlds. I'm in a number of other masterminds. I'm in another mastermind that has lots and lots of 7-figure agencies and beyond, multi-7-figure agencies, and none of them run this lead generation business model. They run this other one. If you have the ability to create leads and get paid for it, and you combine it with these services, you've got something that a lot of these people don't have. A lot of these people that are running this client services model, it's not 100% based on performance like lead generation is. In a lot of ways, yes, we have to deal with client management, but I think what has changed is the G&B management part of it is now more complicated and challenging than it is to deal with client management. And that's why we've made the shift. So I had my first account management. I was explaining kind of our new offers. Guy was really into it. He understood. I was completely transparent. Feels great to, it's awesome to pull yourself out of the business, but you go back to the parts of the stuff. As you scale your business, as you remove yourself, you give up parts of the business you love at some point. For me, talking to the clients, the sales, that was the part I loved. I was great at. It was cool to have that. I know I'm not going to be here for long, but while I'm here, I'm going to enjoy this piece. I'm going to be putting someone in this role, and it's going to be much more systematized than it was. I know to do things I didn't know to do 6 or 7 years ago when I was starting this business. So with that, it's great. Like, this is part of what I think makes Rank Masters fantastic is a lot of these coaching programs are run by people who are not really in the business. We are in the trenches. We are like making a lot of money from the agency. And, we have to deal with all the challenges that you guys do too. So that's a win for me. I'm excited. I feel like rejuvenated towards our agency. and all the stuff that we're changing and the stuff that we have coming here. So can anybody find the stream inside the group? If someone can just throw in the chat, if you guys see it.
I can't find it in there. I didn't see it.
I can't find it. Let me stop the stream and restart it, because it pretends like it's doing it. I see the lovely Mrs. Serena White has her hand up. Serena, talk to me. How's it going?
Same assistant.
You're unmuted now.
Audio.
All right.
There you
So I have a win to share.
Yes.
I just landed a Google Ads management client and doing an on-site technical SEO cleanup for him as well. So that's starting September 1st.
That's fantastic. What is that? Friday? That's 48 hours from now.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And then I have a verbal commitment for a $1,200 a month SEO client. I've sent her all the onboarding info and been following up, but haven't received the official paperwork, but that's another one.
Yeah.
Awesome. Congratulations.
It's great. Sounds like you're kind of like stacking them up a little bit here.
Yeah.
That's great.
Serena, I know that you were, we really got to connect a bit at our event. And I think that, am I correct to assume that you've really picked up some momentum and steam since the event? I hear you closing like potentially 2 clients, which I think that would be rare based on the limited conversation that we had. Is that accurate? Have you picked up some steam?
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's crazy how much, I say this all the time, but until you feel it, until you feel it, you don't really, maybe you don't really believe it, but the person that believes they can and the person that believes they can't, they're both right. And I know you came out of that event with a ton of confidence, and it's just fantastic to see that, since you're landing clients, you're getting yourself opportunities to grow your business. So congratulations, man. Congratulations on that. It's just awesome to see. This is why we do what we do, is this right here is like seeing people that are unsure, that are struggling, come in, they take what we have to say, they feel the love of the community, and they run with it. And then things change,
Yep, absolutely. Thank you.
So awesome.
Very cool. All right. So let's circle back now. Is it now streaming? I think I may have fixed it.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Let me see if I can.
I'll do it.
Okay. You throw the everyone tag on there. Cool.
Yeah.
What other wins do we have? No other wins? I'll share another win myself. I spent the last week. One of the great things about these masterminds is connecting with other people. A lot of you guys know Mr. Monic Bond has become one of my closest friends. We met at a SEO event in San Diego. Turns out we live in the same city. But we spent a lot of time talking SEO together. We spent a lot of time talking business strategy, and just a lot of time just being friends, right? Hanging out on the boat, going and doing different things. So Monic says, hey, I've got some VIP tickets. I've got everything covered. We're going to go out to Vegas for this digital unfiltered event, which is like an SEO conference. And this is not at all like the LeadSnap conference. And I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just a completely different vibe, right? It's guys like SEO, like completely geeking out on SEO strategies. And I think that's, there's absolutely a place for that. And these guys had it, really good community, a lot of really nice people. Riz was out there from our previous event. I saw a number of other friendly faces. While I was at the event, I was fortunate enough to get asked to speak at SEO Spring Training, which is a bigger event out in Phoenix in April. I'll have more about that, as the details become available. A lot of the top SEO people are going to be speaking with me out at this event. So that's another big win for me. Made a lot of friendships while I was out there. And, we got to hear different perspectives on things. One of the things that kind of came away from me is like, as we scale our businesses, I had this conversation a number of times with people out there, because there's this idea, I think, built into, well, maybe a lot of you guys share this belief. I don't necessarily 100% believe that the more SEO knowledge, the better our business is going to do, right? I think that's not the bottleneck for most of us. So a lot of these people, when I had these conversations, talking to them and I'm asking them like, hey, what's your goal? What are you trying to accomplish? And like, I got to learn as much SEO as possible so I can deliver great results. And I get that. And, a couple of these people I'm asking these questions, like, what do you want your life to look like? I think that's where it always has to start. And I think a lot of these people hadn't really considered that point of view. It's like, where do you want your life to look like? Do you want to be the best in the world at SEO? Because if you do, then that means like, hey, maybe you're not going to be traveling all over the place. Maybe you're not going to have the amount of free time. Or maybe you can do that, but you have to be a fantastic business owner if you're going to have that other piece. And you can be awesome at SEO. You can have amazing SEO skills. And if you don't have the business skills to support it, guess what? You're not going to really make money. You're not going to be able to scale your business. SEO does not mean marketing. That's ranking in the search engines, right? One of the things that there were some amazing takeaways, and Samantha and I are going to go through and share the takeaways with you guys from that event. But one of the takeaways I had is like the marketing fundamentals and the business fundamentals. There was a woman named Lisa, who I'm probably going to bring on a call at some point, like new friendship for me. She's running a business that's doing about 5 million a year. And she's a business person. One of the first things she said I really resonated with, and she said, look, I don't dive deep into these SEO holes. I run a business that can scale. And that's kind of what I resonate with. And that's what I've designed Rank Masters to be, is like, hey, there's SEO components, but what I want for it is, I like kind of the tagline we're kicking around for Rank Masters is something that's very true to my heart, is like personal freedom through agency mastery, right? SEO is a piece of like agency mastery. It's not the end all be all. Like if you kind of divide things up and say, like, maybe there's kind of like 4 buckets to running an agency. One is like landing clients. Okay. Number 2 is going to be retaining clients, or I'm sorry, number 2 is going to be delivering results. Number 3 is going to be retaining clients. And number 4 is like, how do we scale our business? So within that bucket of delivering results, maybe 20%, maybe 15 to 20% of that bucket, there's a little piece of that's SEO. So if you guys want to have a life of freedom, if you guys want to have a life where you're traveling and you're doing amazing things, then you've got to have somebody in that sliver that does that SEO piece, but you need all the other pieces as well, right? So a lot of these people are 100% focused on that SEO piece. And, just talking to some of the attendees, it's like, hey, do you want to be like an SEO master, or do you want to be a business owner? It's tough. If you're going to be phenomenal at SEO, that requires, and these guys were, like, I'm absolutely not taking anything away from it. And I'm not saying like one pathway is better than the other. We all have our preferences. You guys should do what you enjoy the most. For me, it's like, I enjoy SEO. I enjoy programming. I enjoy, learning management and studying this stuff. But you know what I enjoy more is riding around on, the yacht with Monica and my friends, or playing golf, right? Or, going on amazing vacations, spending time with my wife, right? That for me is ahead of this stuff. And everyone's got their own take and their own piece. So you just want to make sure as you go and you make these commitments, as you dive into things, that it's in alignment with your life goals. That was one of the kind of takeaways for me, is like, I don't want to be the best at SEO in the world. Like, I don't. I mean, that would be great if someone could just install that, but I'm not willing to do the work that is going to be necessary to get me to that point, because my life goal is to go and have amazing experiences. And like, when it's time for me to say goodbye to everyone in the end, I want to look back on my life like I was another win. I got to speak at Spencer's wedding, and I talked about like the highlight reel. That's what's about for me, is building an amazing highlight reel. And for me, the highlight reel has never been ranking a website. I can't go to sleep because I got this unbelievable backlink. That hasn't been me. What it is like the impact of Robert Strada when he landed his first client, right? Serena, she told the story about when she came to our event and, she had never approached a stranger and she was leaving from the airport and she struck up a conversation with a stranger in the airport for the first time because she had that confidence. That's what I love. Or this, that when traveling with the yacht through Marco Island, through the Florida Keys, coming up into Miami at sunset. Those are moments that are going to be on my highlight reel, right? So I structured my things. I build my business around that. That's what I coach on. That's what I teach on. So I just wanted to share that with you because that was something that hadn't crystallized, but through this event, I just kind of started working through it and thinking about this. And I want to make it 100% clear, not taking anything away from anyone else that has a different point of view. That's my point of view on this stuff. Those people at that event, some of them I think are great business owners. Some of them are decided to go the way of man, I love SEO and I just want to be the best at it. And that's, like I said, total nothing but respect for them. Mr. Brian Jones, I see your hand up. How's it going, man?
Hey, Patrick, how are you?
Good. Yeah.
It's funny. I feel like you're talking directly to me. We're hitting like a ceiling, and we're the not me, my partner and wife. We met, and we talked to it at the SEO at the beach. We go to SEO spring training every year. We know the people you're talking about. It's kind of like us too. Chris loves the technical, and I'm on the sales side. And I come from a business. I started our SEO from a business, from a distribution company 15 years ago, and we grew an e-commerce site. So I totally get the business, and we kind of go back and forth about how to live the life you're talking about. And I love clients. She loves clients. She loves SEO. So it's kind of like I guess it's an evolving thing. Maybe it's what Spencer went through. We're getting clients pretty frequently now, and we should be probably raise our price and get some no's. But I think the market's changed. I think business owners are getting a little desperate for business now, where it was a little easier before. And we got 4 wins this week, and I just feel like as you're talking, I'm like, I don't want to get bogged down in clients. However, my lead gen has never taken off. So that's why I don't really participate a lot on your calls, because I feel like I'm failing at lead gen. But now you're kind of wrapping them back together as a bundle, maybe, and now I feel like, oh, okay, now I'm back in the game with these guys, a little bit. But
welcome back.
It's kind of a weird evolution, in the last year. But everything you're saying is totally correct.
I appreciate that. It's I'm right there with you guys living the journey. I know that because I started this group, because I run the software and I've had the opportunity to speak at these events, there's this tendency to maybe think of me as separate, but I'm not. I'm just like you guys, going through these motions and figuring things out as I go. I'm certainly not perfect, and I learn every day. And one of the things that I try to preach is keep the beginner's mind. Let's not get cocky. Let's always keep the beginner's mind. Things are changing. We've got to change with it. There's things that we love, and there's things that are going to make the highlight reel, things that we're going to that we love more. And it's easy to kind of get complacent with that and get caught in the weeds and not realize that we're spending our days, right? How are you going to spend your day? Are you going to spend your day doing SEO stuff, which we enjoy, or we're going to spend our day like you and Chris on a cruise, or maybe on some island or whatever it is? I want more of those days. In the end, this other stuff is a vehicle to make that stuff happen. So and it's a challenge, man. Things are changing, and we're blending them together, man. I think I always thought this, Brian, I don't think that Rank Masters is right for everyone. And maybe at some point we're going to kind of have a more beginner course, but I think for where you are, this is talk to the other people, make the decision. But I think, hey man, if you want more of this, This is exactly what we're trying to teach and exactly what we're trying to coach on. Our goal is to try to change people's lives and give them the freedom that they want, like the personal freedom through agency mastery. That's the thing that resonates the most with me with this. And it's something I'm super passionate about. So I'm glad that it's speaking to you, Brian. And yeah. So thank you for sharing that, man. I really appreciate it. All right. Any other wins, any other thoughts? I know that it was kind of like a bit of a tangent or, a speech on my end, but I'm, like I said, like I want to bring it to you guys real and what I'm feeling along the way. All right. So Spencer saying congrats. Yeah. Brian, another thing, like for you guys, one of the things, this 1-2 combo, it's perfect. Like I know that Devin has that now with his girlfriend. But a lot of people, like this person that does sales and the person that kind of like does the technical piece, that's beautiful when you have that. A lot of us have to go out and like find that, but have somebody inside your, like that's your partner that's in on this. I mean, that's fantastic, man. That's such a great resource. So let's go over to Sam. Sam was there at the event with me the entire time. And I'm going to kind of interview you, Sam. I'm going to switch this over. Let's switch over to this view. Sam, what did you think of the event as a whole?
I thought it was a very good event that had a lot of good SEO and technical information.
Awesome. How do you feel? And I don't want to sit like the answer I'm not looking for is this one's better than the other one. I know a lot of people that were on. I want you to kind of compare the LeadSnap event, which was more like an agency coaching event, to the SEO stuff. And I'm not looking for like, hey, one's better than the other, but just kind of like compare and contrast those a little bit to give people an idea.
Yeah, absolutely. So this one was much less personal, right? So that's just one place to start. But with that being said, the topics and things that they were introducing were much different than what we get. They were getting into like fine nitty-gritty details and testing, whereas at the LeadSnap events, we tend to focus on higher level concepts, ideas surrounding business and growth.
Right. A lot of personal development type things where like there was a lot of tactics in here. So both communities have a collection of great people. That's what I realized. A lot of these people I've seen before. The speakers I thought were fantastic, just a collection of brilliant people. There was a tangent that like the VIP night, the first night was like a VIP session with the speakers, and they went on this like tangent of like negative SEO. So, there was like the first 15 minutes of the negative SEO conversation, I was a bit frustrated where like they were discussing kind of strategies, and then several of the speakers really piped up and said, hey, why are you trying to do negative SEO? Like that you could be destroying someone's business. That's not the way to try to beat them. Like the way, you imagine that you're competing against somebody in a track match. The negative SEO to me is like poisoning their water bottle, where the other way is like, why don't you train harder? Why don't you like hire the coaches, hire whatever you need so that you can beat them out? There's a big difference between like white, gray, black, and then like SEO. That's like, there's pieces of all of those that I'm like, hey, that makes sense. But negative SEO is destroying somebody else's thing that they work with. And I am vehemently opposed. There's been a couple times within my agency where as people learn and level up, they're like, hey, couldn't we do this to get an advantage? And the answer is always yes, but we will never do that. So I just want to, for those of you that are looking for leadership on that topic, that's something that I have a very strong stance on. And I was happy to see that, some of these speakers spoke up and I think set the record of like, hey, don't mess with other people's stuff like that. Let's beat them out by being better, right? We don't need to poison their water bottles. So that was one of the things that struck me immediately, is that there's a piece of that, of some of that community where people are exploring some of those topics. So I wasn't really on board with those, but I'm sure that we have justifications for different things, right? So let's get into let's kind of run through some of the speakers and some of the takeaways. I know we have a document here that we've prepared, some of the highlights, some of the bullet points. So one of my favorite speakers, and this is the woman that we'll bring on here, is Lisa Perizzelli. Fantastic. She's the one that she runs a $5 million agency. Really sweet. She was really focused on scaling, right? In my mind, she was different than pretty much all the other speakers because she was really like business focused and agency focused. What were some of the takeaways you got from Lisa, Samantha?
Yeah, definitely. So she spoke more than any other presenter, was my favorite for sure. About working smarter and not harder, and enveloping AI and automations into everyday agency processes in order to avoid like human forgetfulness and keeping the projects on pace and on track. She made this comment about minutia and identifying the micro tasks and then automating them. And she phrased it so simply. The process altogether is just understanding the job task, documenting the process, and then figuring out where in that documentation of the process can we eliminate human work in the most efficient way. So maybe it's assigning tasks back or adding due dates, and it can be really small things, but all of these small things that we're automating all together build a better functioning, larger system. So I walked away from that presentation with a ton of notes and ways that we can implement AI and automations into everyday agency operations. And that's what I've been working towards since then.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll tell you guys, and I know that there's, I think multiple 7-figure agencies that are on this call, just kind of looking through some of the names here. I don't know that I run into an agency that hits those numbers, that doesn't speak about processes and systems as a part of the formula that got there. I don't know that there's a lot of 7-figure gunslingers out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't have that stuff in place, here's like one more straw, that like one more piece of evidence. Like for me, Lisa was she's like a systems guru. Funny enough, as Monica and I were flying back, we had a connection flight, which I hate connection flights, but it's what had to happen for a last minute booking. And Lisa actually sat next to us on the plane. So we got to spend several hours going back and forth with her, really built that relationship. And she really wants to be involved in our business, be involved in what we're doing. So that was really cool to connect with her on a deeper level. She's one of the, like Sam, she was absolutely one of my favorite speakers.
Mm-hmm.
So really, really cool stuff there. So that was Sam, if you could just maybe type into the chat the names of these people, and we'll make a post about it as we roll them out. So we're going to go on over now to Dory. So Dory Friend, right? So Dory is, she's been around for a long time. Dory kind of stood apart from me in the way that she presented. She really focused on the value of internal links. And one of the really cool things about this community is that they argue with each other. The speakers will argue with each other. They like, hey, if I don't agree with this, I'm going to voice my opinion. And
sometimes,
that's great.
yeah, in the middle of a presentation.
There could probably be a more tactful way for people to do this. Maybe the right way is to wait until the end of the presentation and then ask a question that, like, hey, in my experience, I've seen this, but that contradicts with what you're saying. Maybe that would be a more tactful way to do this. But these people get excited. They're passionate about it, and sometimes they can't wait. So that presentation got a little bit, she got pulled off target a little bit. Some of the strategies maybe don't accept questions until the end of your presentation. That's certainly something to consider. So some of the stuff, she was really pushing the interlinking, and she had all kinds of tests. She had all kinds of experiments that she'd done. And she talked about having, I think it was, Sam, did she say she had like 4 to 5 links on each page. Did she give us a number, or am I mixing that up with somebody else?
Yeah, you're mixing that up with somebody else, but she said that you can use interlinks on the page. Her typical is like 5 to 7 interlinks on a single page is the maximum that she'll do to really leverage that interlinking power.
Right, right. I kind of, it was almost the way that presentation came across for me was almost that like, hey, the internal links are just as important as the external links. And to be honest, after almost a decade, my first job in SEO was in 2001, long time doing this. I think that the internal links matter a lot in the site structure. That's certainly important, but I guess to some degree, I disagree with parts of her presentation where I think the external links kind of like power up whatever page they're going to, as well as some that's shared with the entire domain. And the internal linking can, to some extent, be used to distribute that. So I just want to share my 2 cents, but she did a lot of tests. She's certainly a really knowledgeable, she seems very successful, very, very respected within the industry. I was really impressed with how she carried herself. She's another speaker that I know will be speaking out at SEO Spring Training. I've heard her name for years. Sam, what were some of your takeaways that I haven't hit on yet from her presentation?
Yeah. So, I mean, there was obviously some differences in opinion concerning metrics and what she was presenting, but TF, trust flow, is still a valid measurement. Obviously, it's not about quality or quantity. It is about quality. Exact match anchors are just going to move that needle faster for you. And then everything else should be branded. And you should use, a good variation of anchors. Something that I found interesting that I didn't know is apparently links that are in bullet point form give you some sort of additional boost or credit as opposed to a regular inline text link. And same with links that are numbers as their anchors for whatever reason. She did have data on this. I have not looked at that additional data. High DR doesn't correlate 1-to-1 with link value. I think a lot of us, when we're evaluating backlinks, tend to look at that DR, and if it's high, think that that is going to be a good link for us and might shell out more money than necessary for a link that won't move the needle.
Yeah, I want to let's talk about that piece right there. So guys, for you guys, the sole value of how you evaluate a link should never be based on like one number, in my opinion, right? Like especially a number like DR. This stuff can be manipulated, and the people that are selling links intentionally will manipulate this so that they can get a higher price, right? Traffic is maybe just as important, if not more important. Like if they have some random page on a site that has a high DR that has no traffic value, like that should be a factor that you should consider. Sam, do you agree there was like this, it almost seemed like a back and forth battle where some people in this community were like, don't worry about UR and DR, that doesn't mean anything. Instead, like majestic trust flow is way more important. Some people completely disagree with that. I know that my good friend Monik, who in my opinion is one of the highest level SEO people that I've ever met, he doesn't necessarily agree with that, and he is a big proponent of like hey, what's the value of this page? So I want to put that tent into it. Everything that we're sharing here, we're sharing the notes from some of the presentations. Don't take this as, hey, this is their opinion and this is what their tests have led them to. We want to expose you to these ideas because I know you guys weren't at the event. But so Sam, continue on. What else did you take away from Dory?
Yeah, and one final thing that like one of the more important things I think I took away at the very end of that presentation, something I've always known, thought I knew, but it was affirmed, is that de-indexation is okay. Now, obviously, we want our pages to be indexed. That's important. But de-indexation is normal, and it doesn't mean that it hasn't been crawled or attributed to your website. It's just they're choosing not to show it in the results for whatever reason, be it the content is too similar to another page that they already have indexing. So why take that power and effort to show that extra result? Google has to be selective with what they show. So even if you have pages that are de-indexed, it's not necessarily a terrible thing. There are going to be just a certain number of pages inherently that won't be.
Right. And it's, I think an important like implication here is that because it's de-indexed doesn't mean that Google doesn't know about it. That's something separate, right? Whether they choose to, maybe they don't value it, right? Maybe, but they know it exists. The way their crawlers work, they find it, guys. So that's a separate thing. Do you have anything else from Dory, or are we ready to move on?
I think we're good to move on. Who are we moving to next?
Steve. Let's go to Steve Toth. So this for me was like one of my very favorite presentations. I'd never even been exposed to this concept that he was doing. So basically, for those of you guys that are in the technical space, maybe you guys have heard of regular expressions. So, or they call it regex sometimes. So like basically what it is, and there's free, actually, I think ChatGPT, he gave, I think ChatGPT RE can do this, like a version of it, but it's basically like a little script that imagine like we're talking and I say like, hey, choose all the blue ones that don't have the top, but do have a stripe. So that's kind of like regex is it's a little script that can be created that can communicate with a lot of different platforms. So it's just kind of like this international language that like you can use it in, I think, almost every programming language. What I didn't know is that you can actually use it in Google Search Console. So this guy's presentation was fantastic. I've already reached out to him and I'm looking to have him bring a similar presentation. But basically the theme of what this guy was doing was using these Google Search, like using these expressions, these little scripts to tell Google Search Console the data that he wanted. So he says, hey, I'm looking for this and this. And there's all kinds of data that Google Search Console has that they don't present to us like just out of the box. And by using these things, you can identify all sorts of things that you're getting traffic for that you don't necessarily know. And those are great opportunities for to target with keywords, because you've already got some stream going on it. You've already got some action going in there. So really, really impressive the way that this guy's mind works. For me, he was one of the top 2 or 3 speakers at this event. Like just, and came across to me as like maybe a little bit of a shyer guy, but his content was so good on how to do this. So I'm going to be bringing these strategies to you guys. I'm going to teach you guys what I learned from this and do a whole presentation on this. Basically, he's combining Google Search Console with Google BigQuery, and he's getting this data and he's pulling the impressions that you're getting. And then you can use that to develop content to increase that and identify low-hanging fruit for things that you already have traction on that you don't know that you have traction on. So that for me, I was blown away by that guy's presentation. So I went up and I said, hey, man, that was fantastic. I'd love to connect with you more. And, this guy had like, I was a complete stranger to him, right? And he was a little bit standoffish, but I think, we're both speaking at SEO spring training. I think I'm going to be able to wear this guy away a little bit and get him to come and like join us, see the community that we have and share some value. Because I know what it's like to be in his shoes where you get hit up by strangers all the time that are asking for things. So, but I'm confident that we're going to be able to bring Steve Toth is his name. We'll bring him over. So fantastic presentation. Samantha, I know I took all the good bits. That was one I was excited about. Do you have anything to add?
No, you covered it excellently. For me, went a little bit over my head. I don't have the same background that you do. So with the whole regex and code, it was a lot for the first time. So I would love to see him speak again.
Right. Sam, and I'd love to see it in the chat. Did I explain what regex is in a way that made sense? I know that a lot of you guys don't have this technical background. Did that make sense to you guys? What he was doing there? Spencer says, I get the basic idea. Yeah, so it's basically just kind of like a scripting language. So next, let's talk about Casra. So this guy, brilliant brilliant human being. Like, this guy's running a number of, just kind of the way he represented himself, and the, like, what I felt is this guy's running like, 5 or 6, 7 or 8 figure businesses here. Like, this guy was very much a business person, and he also was a very high level SEO person. That was like, this guy stood on the line and was able to do both. He is playing in spaces where you're not going to be successful, but unless you're fantastic at SEO, and like, for instance, he owns a huge gambling site. This guy's not an American. He's from, I think, from the UK, but owns a gambling site that I think is worth millions and millions of dollars. And he's been able to do SEO in an area that is very hard to do SEO in. I think he was also in another industry that is a little bit more seedy that I'm not going to get into. But he spoke about how to recover sites that have had penalties, stuff like this. He spoke about a site that I think it got sold for like $14 million. And immediately following that, it plummeted to almost nothing. And then they built it back up. And really, really interesting guy. Great, just entertaining, great presenter, in my opinion. Fantastic SEO stuff. Sam, what else? He had a bunch of different awards that he'd won. What else do you have to share about this guy?
So what I really appreciated about Kazra is that his whole presentation was talking about how to rebound a penalized site, and everything that he was doing for that penalized site was very white hat, very like to the rules, straightforward, understanding why our sites get penalized. So there's a couple reasons: algorithm updates, SEO gurus, other people's terrible advice and things to do to your website, lacking in EEAT signals, no authority or branding going on, or mismatching identities. So these are all reasons why your site could be penalized. And then the clear rebound that he had for authorship, concise offers, SEO, good technical on page, no spammy practices, no spammy links, going through and restructuring your content. I mean, there was just like a whole slew of very normal things to do to help a website that I found very constructive and helpful. There's more to that. I could keep going probably for another 10 minutes on it, but I thought his presentation was very good. And one of the things that he did make a point of is like Google's looking at those links, and they're looking at those links to determine, is this site purchasing links and is this site spammy? So being really careful with the way that you're building links is going to keep you under the Google radar for the most part.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know how much of this stuff it kind of like gets confusing in my mind for what I've taught to rank masters versus what I've taught within the LeadSnap group. But I know a lot of the strategies that he was like pushing towards, like the authorship stuff, like having the authors and the entity network, and just like the Google Eat signals are stuff that we've covered in depth. And, I already knew, like, I believed that this stuff was what was moving the dial, but it's awesome to go and see that like his SEO strategies were like completely in alignment with the stuff that I've been teaching, the stuff that I've been learning and studying, and kind of seems like we were on the same page with pretty much all that. So yeah, I was really impressed with that guy. He seemed like just a really well-versed human being, living all over the place, traveling, running a bunch of different successful businesses. Next, let's go on to our friend Ian. So for those of you guys who don't know Ian Ovens, he runs Agency Assassin. He's co-founder. He's become a friend of mine. So Agency Assassin deals with CTR manipulation. So this is, like performing SEO on some level could just be considered black hat on its own, because Google, I think, says in its terms and conditions that you shouldn't be trying to manipulate the listings, but maybe that's grayish. I don't know. CTR manipulation is certainly black hat, right? That is just for those of you guys, I think most of you guys probably are familiar with this. I do believe this is a major ranking signal for your Google My Business. This is usually where this is applied, although I think could just as easily be applied to organic ranking. So basically how this works for those of you guys who haven't been exposed to this is you can put in like listings and a list of keywords, and using proxies. A proxy is imagine like, whenever we do a search, it's coming from an IP address, and a proxy can rotate to different locations and perform these searches from all these different locations. So this program is designed to do that and rotate through. I think Ian is an absolutely brilliant SEO. He's somebody that is a personal friend of mine. From what I've seen of his software, I think it looks like it would be very effective. I'm not going to comment on whether I have used or not used that software in particular, but it's cool to see some of the results that he was sharing there. If anyone is interested in this, reach out to me, and I can make an introduction to Ian. He's become a good friend of mine. Really, really brilliant person. Anything to add there, Sam?
Yes, he is brilliant, and if he's watching this, we love you. But yeah, I mean, I had one takeaway. So the important thing, like CTR manipulation, is the thing that people do. So the one thing about CTR manipulation that you need to know if you're going to do it is if you are sending too much traffic, you're going to hurt yourself. And that's one thing that he made a point to emphasize. So of course, be careful. And his whole presentation was, very basic, just going through and showing the results before and after with his software. So we've seen it before. It was very similar to what he did at the event for us. He was a visitor there. Anybody that was there, it was pretty close. So yeah, we love Ian. His presentation was good. I think it was valuable. So if you are or are not interested in CTR manipulation, maybe go talk to him.
Yeah. He also a thank you if you're watching, Ian. He took us out to probably the most expensive steak that I've ever had.
Yeah.
$400 tomahawk steak that they lit on fire at our table, and amazing presentation, awesome dinner, very, very generous person. One of the things I want to hit on for like CTR, a lot of people, hey, we try it out, we don't get the results. He talks about how it could take, 2 to 3 months before you start to get the results. And what you don't want to do, which can actually hurt things, is if you were to, maybe you're not getting the results and you decide like, hey, this isn't working, I'm going to shut it off. You can't just pull the rug out from under it, because you have to like step it down. It can be a signal to Google that you are running CTR manipulation if you pull the rug out from, like, if you're sending it, let's say you're sending like 50 clicks a day to your Google My Business or your site or whatever, and then that just disappears, like that's a red flag. So just
dangerous
can't.
stuff. Be careful.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So just want to put that out there for those that are interested in that. Okay, so then we have Mr. Brian Cato, which I think a lot of people mispronounce his name, Brian Cato, but it's Brian Cato, I think is how he pronounced it. Japanese guy. I've known this guy for a while, never knew he was Japanese, and really nice guy. Brian, somebody that I would kind of consider a friend, or building that friendship. Brian is a hacker. He's somebody that is like in that black hat world and just like knows stuff that maybe people shouldn't know to some extent. But it's good that he's got a good heart, and he's maybe he's a good person to, if someone's going to have those skills, maybe he's one of the people that should. One of the things that Brian was pushing, and guys, one of the common themes that we don't talk about enough, but we do, and I push it on my team, and I realized during this event that I don't mention it enough, is that we have to be testing, always be testing things. All of these people are testing stuff. You don't want to test on your client site. You don't want to test on your live site. You can create your own testing environment, buy domains, try things out. That's a spot to be testing. Their data and their results overwhelmingly comes from tests. And one of the things that is really hard to understand when you're testing, you start testing on like client sites and live sites, there's so many other variables that are going on. Like, right, if you're doing all these different things and then you put a strategy in play and your site moves, like what moved it? Your inability to isolate a variable is going to cause problems in your test results and going to lead you to false assumptions. Additionally, just as testing as a whole, like it's probably common sense for most of you guys, but sample size is a huge deal, especially when you're looking at Google. You never see a result in the real life where it's like how would you feel if someone was like, hey, this drug, you know, helped one person out of one, right? Like, would that give you a lot of confidence? No, there's thousands, tens of thousands of results on things that we're measuring. And we have to apply that same. I'm not saying you have to build 10,000 test sites, but I'm saying you need a sample size, and you can't just make assumptions based on one thing, which I think is inherently a problem. But Sam, talk to us about Brian Cato. What were your takeaways for him?
Yeah, so obviously testing sites, he made a strong recommendation to get that burner site. He also was a huge proponent for using tools for their unintended purposes. So like a QR code, right? He was using QR codes in ways that I've never even thought about using them before, to build links, to send people to links, to create traffic, which I thought was pretty brilliant. He was also using some Chrome extensions for unintended purposes. He mentioned how you can be using things like OneTab to curate link building opportunities and lists for yourself. But he is a sheet stacking guy. If you've ever talked to him or ever talked to him and mentioned sheet stacking, he would be thrilled. He was like all about it. So he's saying that that's a viable method for link building. It's a little bit gray hat. And using sheets and docs and things like PDFs that are getting indexed and are public to essentially reaffirm everything that you're doing for your money site directly. He also made a very strong remark. This is the ethical hacker, right? So he just gave us a general warning: DMARC, DKIM, and SPF for websites, making sure that those are all configured properly in your MX toolbox, in your cPanel or Plesk, are configured so that you're protected against hacking and things of that nature.
Awesome. Yeah. That was really interesting, realizing that like links and content and stuff from PDFs. This guy was really big on like the theme of, one of the themes I took away from his speech is like using tools in a way that they weren't intended to be used, and like just being like thinking outside the box. He'd come up with dozens of creative ways to take advantage of like existing things and use them in a different manner to like improve his SEO. So really, really some fascinating strategies there. So let's move over to Mike Marlino. Mike, you know, always a presence, right? Mr. Marlino, for those of you guys who haven't met him, you know, maybe like he and I are maybe cut from a little bit different cloth, to the point where we actually, and I mean, no disrespect if you're watching this, Mike, love you, man. We actually counted how many cuss words he had during his speech. And it was impressive. I don't want to share that number because I think maybe we'll run a contest with that for like a free, like if you can guess, he had a 45-minute speech. If you can guess how many cuss words, maybe we'll do like a free month or so of LeadSnap. But what comes through, Mike was actually one of the people when they were talking about negative SEO. Mike was one of the first people to speak up and be like, hey, don't do that. He didn't say it with those words, but he didn't say, hey guys, I think this is a bad idea. That's not how Mike speaks. But basically that was his message, where it was like, you guys shouldn't be doing that, because you can really mess up. Mike is big into CTR manipulation. So tons of experience into the strategies, lots of testing, lots of experiments for like CTR for improving Google My Business. You know, that's his specialty is Google My Business. He's also like big into revenue share stuff, which can be, I think, a hard model to really get your arms around, where you're like getting access to people's books and stuff like that. And you know, it's all, there's a part of me, Samantha, how old were you when you started working for me?
19.
So there's a part of me that feels and I know you, hey, what are you, 24 now?
Yeah.
there's part of me that feels a responsibility when I bring in a young woman and then Merlino's over there going, you know, F this, F that. Like it's all coming from a good place. But I feel like almost like sheepish at times when I'm like, hey, Samantha, come to this. And then like it's just like the beeper would be going off every minute, right? But beyond that, what were some of the takeaways that you had? I know that this was a presentation that Mike came out and spoke at our first event, and this was, to me, it was a pretty similar presentation. What were your thoughts? Was there a lot of new pieces here, or any additional takeaways for you?
No, there weren't really any additional takeaways from the first time that we've seen this presentation. For those of you that saw Merlino speak the first time at our first event, what he's doing is still working for him. So go back and look at that stuff and see how you can potentially implement it for yourselves, because this is probably one of the longest working methods that I've ever seen somebody endorsing. He went through his process of audit, optimize. The optimize included the GBP. He does stacking, which is a common theme throughout everybody that was speaking at this presentation. And then on and off page SEO, backlinks, citations, technical. He hits social media really hard. Obviously does what he does with the maps, and then he's ranking. So he has been able to consistently move the needle with things like manipulated map strings. So if that's something that you're looking forward to or need or are interested in learning about, he is an excellent resource for that. And that always comes across despite the expletives in his speech. He definitely does bring some flavor to every conversation that he has.
Yeah. And guys, we're kind of like teasing a little bit about him cussing. Obviously, he, like someone said here, Thomas, I think he said, brings a lot of color. Mike has a huge heart that always comes through. Every time he goes and gets his picture, he shakes everyone's hand. Like that's the part. I love how authentic he is to himself, and seems like he's had some really good results. In order to, like, I don't think we're gonna have time to go through everyone on this list, because they had a lot of speakers. It was 2 days long. I know that it was the event was organized by Chris Palmer. I've kind of been in circles with him and little conversations here and there, like through Messenger over the last few years. Obviously, he has he's somebody that a lot of people know in the SEO community. I think this was their first event. So they jammed a lot of speakers in there in a quick amount of time. That was part of the feedback I gave, is like a little breather. So we also had Lee Witcher, Holly Starks, Victoria Altman, and Clint Butler. And Ted, I don't think that's how you spell his name. That's on a sheet. I think it's Kubitis. Maybe I'm sure someone on this call knows, but Ted, absolutely brilliant guy. Sorry for butchering your name. This guy created a desktop software that apparently some people have gotten some good stuff from. So how a lot of respect for him. Chris Palmer, Cora, yeah, he created Cora. I'm personally not a fan of like desktop installation softwares. I think, hey, now with the power of the cloud, like it just seems like a better way to do it. One of my best friends has a software that competes with that I think we'll be introducing you guys. It competes with Ahrefs, SEMrush, and all this stuff. We'll get him on here. You guys will love Monic and the amazing thing that he's built. Not taking anything away from Ted, just only had a few interactions with him. Holly Starks came on there. She's obviously like a really brilliant SEO. I love seeing, what was cool about this event is there was a good amount of women that were presenters, which I think that lacks a lot in the SEO world, but they were like really well represented at this event. Holly Starks did something really cool. That's it's the second time I've really got to spend some time with Holly and talk to her. The way her mind works it's really cool. She wants to break things and scale it. And she wants to do things on a huge scale. And with that, comes a reputation for things, but I think, you know, when you talk to Holly, it always comes across as, to me, that she has a really good heart. She did this really cool thing. If you guys haven't seen this, basically what she did is she went out, without their knowledge, she went out and got audio of all the other speakers at the event. And then she used that to create a fake conversation. And she basically took into account kind of the individual language models that each one of these people had. And they carried on this conversation where they're kind of using their local, you know, their own local flavors on how they speak. And it sounded just like each one of these people. So they completely faking audio. So she was talking about how we can create podcasts for our clients, right? If we can get some of their audio, there can be like whole conversations that they're having. So maybe our clients don't have the ability to host a podcast, but they don't need to, right? If you get some of their audio, you get the scripts approved, then this could be something for them to really kind of like build up. We talk about like the Google Eat factors to build up their authority, right? And kind of have that messaging. So that I think was really, really impressive. If anybody needs an intro into that, Sam, I'm just going to skip through this because, you know, here's another win is this is really cool. One of my buddies, you know, I live down near Miami, and one of my buddies called me up and he said, "Hey, I've got a ticket for the soccer game tonight, Lionel Messi. So I'm going to go watch Lionel Messi, and I've got to leave here pretty soon to go to this game. So I'd love if we were to go through all the highlights from these like 18 or 20 speakers that were at this event, then that would be too much." One of the things that I realized, you know, when I spoke at SEO at the beach, people were really excited. They hadn't seen LeadSnap before, a lot of these people, and I ended up answering a lot of questions. And you know, I'm not a super experienced speaker in front of these groups, and the session went beyond my time. And because of that, I cut into Clint Butler's time, and you know, I really screwed this guy out of part of the time that I was allotted, and you know, that was kind of discovered while I was there, and you know, I went and apologized to Clint. For anyone else that is watching, if Clint, you're watching this, I just wanted to, hey, I made a mistake. I'm learning. I gave my apology. It seemed like Clint accepted it. But you know, I'm glad that was discovered at this event, and that I could kind of like fix that, because there was this weird vibe when I saw him, like, "Hey Clint, how you doing, man?" He was like, "Ah, good, man." Just standoffish, but I know, like, hey, I don't really know him that well either. But you know, you live and learn. Important thing is like fix it, make a correction. So if you're out there, Clint, public apology to you for eating into your time. And anyone else that was at SEO at the beach and didn't get to experience the full Clint Butler. Really smart guy. He kind of did a recap. I guess that's his thing, is like he goes through and recaps on a lot of this and shares his own really, you know, I think one of the people that have been in the game for longer, from the people that were there, I put Clint SEO knowledge from my perception, you know, near the top of that group. Sam, what was your thoughts on Clint?
I thought it was a very good presentation. I expected it to be different based on the title, so I was just like a tiny bit disappointed, but still, like, what he presented was valuable, and he definitely made me realize that we were not leveraging schema the way that we should be. Like, there's more to that.
Yeah, let's go back to Terry Samuels too. So Clint and Terry Samuels, if you guys haven't met Terry Samuels, one of my favorite people that I've met through these, like through SEO at the beach in this event the second time. Him and Clint kind of have this partnership, and the way that they think about schema, like, let me back up. The way that we've thought about schema in our agency is kind of like an afterthought, side note, where we just set it up. We use rank math. These guys, there's a ton that goes into it, and you know, I'm going to be bringing a lot of this training into Rank Masters for you guys, diving deep into the correct way to set up schema. These guys get huge advantages out of schema, so it's something that high-level SEO guys that are at this event are basically telling you straight up, like, hey, there's an untapped advantage here for most people if you don't know how to use schema to its full potential. And you these guys are going deep into technical stuff, like really high level SEO strategies. And for me, I always put schema as like a basic strategy, but it's not really that basic when you you can go a lot of different directions. It's not like it's super complicated, but just the whole framing of how they don't refer to it that same way that we've kind of referred to it internally. Sam, do you agree with that?
I absolutely agree. I can't remember which one of them said it, but one of them said that they ranked a website with only schema.
It's wild.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's absolutely insane to me. Schema and press releases were the two things that they used to rank that website.
Right. So Terry Samuels is like, I've got a good buddy, Lane Hauk. If any of you guys know Lane, I think I can't remember. I think we brought him on a Rank Masters call, not a LeadSnap call. Brilliant SEO, really, really nice guy. He's the founder of Signal Genesis, really cool product that he has that we use in our agency. But Terry Samuels is another one of these guys that just really, when they went to negative SEO, like Mike Merlino, Terry was one of the first people to jump on it and be like, and Clint too, right? These guys said, hey, why the hell are you doing that? And I, in these corners where SEO there's there's a level of like one-upsmanship, like who knows the most. And these guys are like, I don't care, like who knows the most in that. That's the wrong thing to do. And I just like, it gets competitive, and they pulled it back and said, no, don't do that. And Terry was one of those people that spoke up. So I really respect those guys for, towing the line of integrity in moments where it would be easy to get pulled in the other way by like demonstrating your knowledge. And Terry, I wasn't surprised. That was the perspective that I had on Terry from the beginning. Really, really like this guy. He's got the SEO spring training. I'm going to be out there speaking. He organizes this. I was asking him about his events to try to understand how it compared to, SEO at the beach and this digital unfiltered. And I think Terry's got a lot of like SEO people, but he's also really focused on the experience part of it for people, which I thought was really cool. That's a big part of what we do at our LeadSnap events. If you guys have been to our LeadSnap event and you believe if you agree with what I'm saying about how we like push the experience and trying to like make it something special, throw it in the chat so that the other people who haven't been to one can. But that sounds like what Terry's trying to set up for his events, which I love to see that, because really you go to these events and their tactics, and we try to like download as much information as we can, but you're not going to be able to take the presentation and just be able to digest all of it, but you can take the relationships and the friendships that you form at these events. That stuff can go on the road with you, and that can give you like a perpetual benefit, right? And by structuring events in a way that are really experience focused and giving the time for building those friendships and relationships, you can foster those relationships for the people. So the value of the events can carry on well beyond the events. That's something that we're a huge believer in. So it sounds like that's what Terry's doing. I haven't been to an SEO spring training. Maybe if you guys have been to one, you can throw in the comments, share your experience if you agree with that's how it was in the past. But he talked about how there's going to be like golfing before the event, going to a baseball game, like a number of other things. Is like, I love seeing that. That to me is just as valuable as the content in the lectures. So Terry talked about stacking press releases, and I thought that speech was fantastic. One of my favorite ones at the event. He mentioned that Google does, as we were talking about schema, Google does crawl schema. That's something kind of like your opportunity to give an instruction set to Google on your site. So really cool. Did my microphone just do something weird? Is it still good?
Yeah, it did, but it's good.
Okay. I got some weird message on my phone, on my computer that showed up. I don't know what that was. Okay, I'll continue on. All right. So Sam, what are your takeaways from Terry's speech?
I mean, you pretty much hit the nail on the head, right? Press releases are good. He very upfront, addressed the notion that press releases are one of those things that you get and fall off and oh well. He disagrees. If you stack them properly, they stay, and they stay forever. And that they have a huge return on brand authority and trust with Google back to your website. Now, he says that he stacks them. He'll do stacks up to 5. He said that's not really necessary for local. That was a specific question that I had asked him. And one thing that I really appreciated about his entire presentation is he didn't just introduce the concept, he gave you the roadmap to actually doing it. And very few of the presenters actually did that. So when we talk about like the value that he offered, it was extreme.
Yeah, he was really about like giving you some applicable steps, right? Which was great. So basically the concept is getting multiple press releases. I think it's a great way, it's a great foundation to kind of like when you're setting up your site, we don't have a lot of backlinks. We want things to look organic, like a press release. I'm not sure if press releases are considered. I mean, I don't necessarily consider them black hat, or like it just seems like
they're
what a
fairly
business
normal.
would do. Yeah.
I think it's the state of Arkansas or Alabama, one of those, requires you, if you get a DBA, to do essentially a press release. Like you have to release it in the newspaper. So as far as like businesses go, it's pretty industry standard to have some mention of your business in the news, local news, and something of that extent. So when you think about press releases, you can assume that they're very safe to get.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, Sam, I want to wrap it up because I don't want to miss Lionel Messi. I love you guys. I love this group. I want to deliver as much content, but hey, I've never got to see this guy in in real life. Lifelong soccer fan. Sam, do you have any final thoughts? Well, like while you're thinking of this, I would love to, hey guys, we do these calls for free every week. I know that I don't always have the opportunity to be here. What helps us is to understand the value that you guys get from this, the takeaways that you guys get. While Sam's sharing her final thoughts, I would love if you guys had any takeaways from this call, things that stood out for you. Just share it with us so we know how we're doing. Maybe some of your takeaways didn't register didn't hit with someone the first time, but when you put it back out there, maybe it will resonate with them, and that will become a takeaway for them. Sam, any final thoughts on the event, or in general, that you want to share from that week that we kind of spent together?
Yeah. So testing, make sure you test. Get yourself a test site and try to run it into the ground and then try to rank it back up again. That's pretty much what everybody said made them really competent with SEO. So if that's what you need to do to get that done, then go and do it. Don't experiment with those client sites. And my second takeaway, or my second recommendation thought, is if you have the opportunity to attend events that are near you or local to you, I think that you should just go and do it. If that's something that you can afford, expose yourself to these people, make connections, learn new concepts, and then try them out for yourself and see what works.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm 100% believer. You guys find the events to attend, make connections, make new friendships. It's really been huge for me. One of the things I like, a big takeaway for me that really crystallized was like, think about the end before you like get caught in the weeds. Where do you want to go? And choose the path that's going to make sense for you. It's easy to geek out on a lot of these tactics and techniques, and depending on what your goal is for the end and the business that you're trying to create, that may or may not be the best use of your time, right? So I've got people on my team that I'm paying, and I'm giving them strategies and giving them the resources so that we can geek out on SEO. But for me, being the business owner, being the CEO of multiple companies, that's not the best use of my time to like dive into Google Sheets backlink strategies, right? Instead, it's creating huge relationships, vision, like what is the direction that's going to be best, like those types of things. It's not to say one's wrong and the other one's right, but it is wrong, I think, if you don't consider where you want to go and take the appropriate steps to get you there and get kind of caught in the weeds on that. So, guys, I appreciate you guys. I hope you guys got this. It looks like we've got Craig. It's a great recap of the event. I couldn't attend. Really cool. Thank you, Patrick and Sam. You're welcome. Let's give a shout out to Sam too. Sam jumping on here. It's awesome to see Sam I know the first time I brought you on here, she was like really nervous, and she's growing into her own. And it's just kind of cool to see you on here getting more and more comfortable with this. Sam got a big promotion within our company after working 4 or 5 years, so has moved into kind of like second in command within my company. She just finished 75 hard. So big shout out to Sam. Always impressive. So Sam, thank you for spending your time on here.
Of course.
All right, guys. So you guys, as always, I want you guys to go out and create some wins over the next 7 days. Create some momentum in your business. This is about to be the last quarter of the year. For those of you guys that are watching, that are tuning in from Rank Masters, I'm doing private coaching on Friday. I'm going to open up a bunch of time. Feel free to jump on the schedule. We'll talk more about it on our weekly Rank Masters call tomorrow. But I'm going to do one-on-one coaching on Friday. I want to make sure that you guys are moving in a positive direction. So reach out to me if you're watching, you're part of Rank Masters, and you want to grab one of those spots. So you guys have an amazing week. Go Inter Miami. Hopefully Lionel Messi will put on a show tonight. And we'll see you guys soon. Thank you guys so much.
Have fun.
Yes.
Boop, boop.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Messi.